Freeport's historic East End community will be represented here within the Freeport Historical Museum. An interpretive panel and display will be developed to share the story of the East End with a multitude of visitors to come. I wish to thank Ms. Admiral Williams, who is a passionate and caring member of our historical board, for inspiring today's event. Thank you. I also wish to thank Ms. Pam Tilley and Ms. Lila Mae Lloyd for sharing their history with us here today. Thank you.
First, I want to thank you for inviting me to share my story. Not that I really want to tell everything, but you know, we have some closets we won't open. My name is Lila Mae Shanklin Lloyd. I was born right there in the East End on 6th Street in 1928. And I did leave Freeport at the age of 13 years old because there was no high school. And my father could not send me to a boarding school. I had a sister, a little older than me, about a year and 9 months, and they had put her in a boarding school. He said, well, we can't put you because we don't have the money. So I told my daddy, I said, if you don't send me to high school so I can get a diploma, I'm gonna run off. Today, I'm here to talk about this East End area and why it means so much to those who once lived there. Enduring East End, and I thought about this and I wondered why they use that word enduring. And so I had to go to the dictionary and really be comfortable with it. I knew what I thought about it, so when I went to the dictionary, learning how to be patient. I went to 4 different homes in 4 different cities. 1 year in college. When I came back to Freeport in 1960, I came back as a widow with 5 children, all under 10. That was a good journey, wasn't it? Anyway, so I'm back at that same East End, and this is the story that I will share with you today. How and when did the freed slaves enter the East End? How did they get there? How did we all get in that area? I was sure that it was after the law had outlawed slavery in the year of 1865. It had to be. But when and where did they come from? So I went to my dictionary. I knew from the slave history that the slaves lived on the plantations, and there was a slave master. There were 63 plantations in Missouri County in 1847. And I just looked up this information a couple of days ago, but I want to share this with you because we learned in the early that every slave had to carry the name of the master. So like my parents, great-grandparents who were slaves, they were on a plantation called the Edwards in Missouri County. And they sold one of the boys to another plantation called Roberts. So when I got to know him as my relative, he carried the name of Jefferson Edward Roberts. When the news came that the slaves were free, they would have somewhere to go. They had to have somewhere to go. Slavery was ended. Slavery provided shelter, food, clothing, all within the boundaries of being disliked, hated, mistreated, defrauded, etc. We are taught that necessity is a matter of invention. And I have a copy where there are hundreds of inventions that the slaves had done while they were slaves. And I'll put it out so y'all can see it. There are many, many inventions. The ironing board, if I had a table, I could read it out to you. But anyway, they did a lot of inventions in those days. When I look at the photos of the East End, the many homes that the aerial view has shown, that they had established since their freedom. And I wondered, how long did it take them from 1865 to get that many people in that location? And the picture showed the home was so beautifully white with trim but it was an aerial view, so they didn't get close enough to show what I knew about it as a child. The houses was always pretty, but the land was dirt. I didn't know anything about carpet grass when I lived in East End because you had dirt roads, dirt yards. My dad and my mother said, y'all go clean the yard. What does it do but sweep it? Enduring the East End, what was it like? Learning to be patient in every phase of life. There had been a new law put in place when the slaves were released, and this law was called the Jim Crow Law. They lived in that area, but they still was under rules and regulations. The rules were for total separation, total segregation. Places we could not go, things we could not do, objects we could not have, people we could not fellowship with. A system of separation, white on one side, blacks on the other. The East End developed many homes, wood frame built on blocks. Most were painted white with their own choice of a trim, whether gray or brown or blue. We had wood burning stoves, wood burning heaters. And last night as I was lying in bed, I thought about my parents had oil lamps. And I got one at my house with the glass shade that you take and pull it off, put the oil in it, and then the little wick where you light it and it keeps the house lit up. So that was in the homes always. Also, I'm trying to say. My mother lived on 6th Street, but I had a sister, when she got married, she lived over on 8th Street. So you might have a brother on 4th Street and a sister on 8th Street. You got to know each other's neighbors, and by moving around so much, this is why they've always heard this saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Because if I asked my parents, can I go over to Aunt Gertrude's house? Yeah, you can stay about an hour and don't stay too long and don't go anywhere else but at her house. And if I was caught at 2 doors down the street on another street, somebody would see me and say, now you're not supposed to be over here, I know that, and I'm gonna tell your mom I saw you on 5th Street. When I was young and got in trouble like that, I didn't know God then, but I always know there was a God. And I would say, now God, oh God, if you get me out of this, I won't do it no more. Don't let my daddy whip me. God, please don't let me get whipped. There were 3 Baptist churches in our area when I grew up, where I grew up. There were one Methodist church, there was one Church of God in Christ, and the Church of Christ. They all had different doctrines, but they all knew each other, and when they have an annual program, one church would invite the others to come to that particular program. And if it was a youth program, and you invite the youth from that church, they would always be prepared to be on program when they got to that church to do something. So that's how they worked with the youth so faithfully, getting them ready. You're going to be singing over there at the Methodist Church Sunday at the Church of God in Christ. There were 3 cafes in the East End on 5th Street, 3 on 5th. There was a barbecue on 6th in the 700 block. There was a cafe in the 600 block, on 500 block on 6th Street, right in front of my house on the corner. There was a lady had a cafe, and she always had little candy, you know, and I try to save my penny and go over there. And my parents say, they give you 5 pennies and a nickel maybe sometime. You know, even loaf of bread was a nickel back then, so you know that was very. And that was after church in the morning after Sunday school. Sometimes we sneak down to this lady's cafe, Thomas Cafe, and the lady named Miss Essie. We sneak down there and buy a piece of candy. And they whip us for using that penny that what they gave us to put in church for going down there to buy a piece of candy. And my last page, I had this on there because it talks to me for myself. Many times we don't know what the word covet means. Thou should not covet. Covetous, it is the refusal to respect the integrity of other humankinds being expressed in an inordinate accumulation of material things, wealth, gain, riches, and in the use of other persons for your own personal advantage, or the quest for status, power, security at the price or at the expense of another person. So we want to guard ourselves in that way. And this is a lot of times what we recognize as we were in the East End, isolated from the world, having to go live under those laws. But we got along good, and we shared whatever we learned with the other person so they can learn. And if you learned something that I need to know when you came to mission, you shared it. If you came to Sunday school and you had a chance, you shared something new that you would have learned. And so this is what I can only share with you in my lifestyle, and I hope it's give you a picture of what it was like to live in the Negro reservation.
But I wrote this poem called Perspectives. And it goes like this. I know you will never see a person the same way that I do. What they might mean to me is not a perspective for you. We grew up at the east end of Freeport, making mud pies, playing jacks, hopscotch and kickball. We created rodeos with old car tires for bulls. Old hobby horses were old mop sticks out of the trash when we were small. We ran into a fall behind the mosquito spray trucks. Rode bikes on shell-covered, uneven roads. And sometimes we'd fall, not realizing how we were truly being blessed as God protected us and fenced us through it all. We always ran in before the street lights came on to watch Ed Sullivan, The Wizard of Oz, or Imitation of Life. We were well aware of our limitations as children, always respecting our elders and trying to do what was right. We never comprehended danger. We never gave it too much thought. We played in ditches, catching tadpoles in a jar, as we took turns riding fast, corner to corner, in Three Brothers' old grocery carts. We learned the new songs from Aunt Emma's speakers. From her cafe, it amplified the great sounds into the streets. Then we would run over to Aunt Ella's, Miss Armstrong's, or Miss Essie's, where we found Mr. Cola, now and later's, moon cookies, or homemade pies to eat. I can still hear us singing Jimmy Mac. In fact, it was one of our favorite songs. We would repeat those chords over and over. Oh, Jimmy Mac, when are you coming back? Until he finally came back home. We lived our lives where no cares came to mind, for we loved our life of simplicity. We were so happy just living in our neighborhood, living down on East Spruce and 7th Street. This was how we grew up. Not rich with money, but never poor. We had strong women to which we patterned our lives. We had a village to guide our steps as we learned to grow. One day, we are playing on First Baptist church steps. The next, our young smiles were gone. In time, we stood as learned women, raising children of our very own. Yet we still held our precious memories. No one can destroy or steal that from you or me. Married, children, and different locations didn't change not one branch of our planet tree. I'll never forget our childhood. We fought, made up, and forgave. That was how we weathered our storms. It's just the way we were raised. So we thank God for guiding our steps to listen as we sing our life songs. You opened windows to let us breathe until you come back to take us home. So let's continue to walk in grace and beauty, taking steps that many may not understand, doing the things that are required to fulfill our Master's plan. Oh, to live our lives with grace, to travel our journey in kindness near and far, while others have missed out on seeing the real, not knowing how beautiful inside and out we really are. So know you will never see a person the same way that I do. What they might mean to me is not a perspective for you.